Bitcoin is right now crashing to extremely low levels, many consecutive days in a row. We've gone down now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row, and we can see that we are clearly inside this bear flag pattern. A bear flag pattern, of course, it looks like a regular flag, but it goes to the downside. Here we're creating the flag pattern, you can see, and then we take the price movement from the previous flag, the downward movement, we portray it on the bottom, and the target is somewhere here around $50,000. But right now, what do I think will happen? And what we can see very importantly is that we are being rejected as predicted from this yellow line. And that is of course the 200 simple daily moving average, the average price over the last 200 trading days. And if we go back here all the way to March 2022 in the last bear cycle, we have been also rejected exactly from this 200 simple moving average line. And I just want to highlight this. So every single time, 2014 we got rejected, 2018 rejected, 2021 rejected, 2026 again a rejection. These are of course all of the bear market years, so it is acting as a very strong resistance in a bear market, and this is something very important to highlight. But now let's look at Bitcoin here a bit closer. So what do I potentially expect to happen for Bitcoin going into the next couple of days? And we'll have to zoom in a bit. So we can see that there's a strong line of support and resistance here at approximately $75,000. This line has acted as previous resistance right here. It has acted as previous support right here. And I would not be surprised if it now acts as a slight support for us to bounce to the top side from and then eventually go further down. Now, of course, I'm in a short position right now, and I've also been thinking, should I exit my short position at this price point and then enter back at the top price point? But from my experience, where I've lost a lot of money by doing this, I know that it's best to just stick to the strategy. If we eventually actually go further down from here, I will miss out and I will have to re-enter at a lower price point, which I don't want. My entry price right now is approximately $81.5 thousand. That's my average entry price. And I will be okay with us bouncing here to the top side and just adding to my position. If we go back above $82, $83, $84,000, I will add to my position. If not, however, I am okay that the profit on paper goes down, because I am pretty much convinced that we are further going down. And one thing I want to highlight here is that we have a potential head and shoulders pattern forming. And I want to show you guys the head and shoulders pattern. It is essentially looking like this. And we have this bearish head and shoulders pattern. So we have the shoulder, which is one high, then we have a head, which is a higher high, and then we have the other shoulder, and they trade on a neckline. And I want you to remember this chart. And now let's go back to here, and we can see, if you can follow me, we have the first neck, that is the first neck, this is the head, and this is the trend line, right? This is the neckline. If we find a bounce from here, which I think is likely, we could go up, potentially form this the second shoulder, and then eventually go further down and continue the downtrend. And thank you to the guy that highlighted this in the comment section. Thank you very much. And we can see this can potentially happen. So if we find a bounce here, don't be surprised. And of course, Bitcoin is in a rising wedge pattern, and this is a very bearish pattern. It just means that we form here, it's not the picture perfect rising wedge, but we are in a rising wedge and we broke down. The target, of course, is all the way at the bottom at approximately $65,000 for the rising wedge. So eventually, I believe over the next couple of weeks or months, we will go to $65,000. But of course, Bitcoin doesn't, any price movement doesn't just go in a straight line unless there's a major news event coming out. So we'll probably see a bounce here at this level exactly. Here at the neckline, we see a bounce and go up and then go further down. So that's what I expect for Bitcoin to happen. If we go further down immediately, that's fine too, but we'll see a bounce eventually, as it's always the case. And here I've just drawn it out again for you guys. We have this line of previous support and resistance, which has acted as here support and here kind of resistance. It's not the perfect line, but if we see a bounce from the $75,000 region, we could potentially go back up to this level and then go further down. And this would, of course, create that head and shoulders pattern that we've been talking about. And looking also, we have to look at the CME gap. So the CME gap is basically the gaps that are formed for Bitcoin over the weekend. We can see this is Friday and this is Monday, okay? And you can see there's a gap that is formed. Like if I zoom in on the 4 hourly, there's a gap that is formed. And these gaps 95% of the time tend to be filled. So Bitcoin fills these prices. And we have not fully filled this gap at $84,000. So there's also another gap from last week, and I highlighted here in white so you can see it better. But this gap lies all the way up at $79,000, just above $79,000. And look at this, guys. If we see a bounce from here, this level of support and resistance will pretty much exactly fill that gap. I mean, you can even draw that head and shoulders pattern right here. We have, the shoulder, we have the head, and if we go up here, we'll fill the CME gap and then go further down, leave that CME gap at the top side at 84, or we of course go further up like this somehow, and then eventually go further down, which can also play out. Either case, I'm prepared. That's what I'm trying to highlight. Looking at the liquidity heat map, this is where traders get liquidated on their longs and shorts. So these are the long traders. They're getting liquidated right here on their long positions. And yes, of course, we are building up more and more towards the bottom, but we have grabbed almost all of the liquidity on the bottom side. There's a bit more left, and that's why I wouldn't be surprised if we go a bit further down to like $75,000, which is where we have most of the liquidity remaining. And then we can see a lot of liquidity building up to the top side, especially here up to like $83,000, in which case I'm happy actually. I'll add to my short position because I know that eventually we are going down, right? I believe us to go down to much further levels. And therefore I'm okay with us seeing a bounce here. And just a few other market news. Nvidia tomorrow is very important. Nvidia is the largest company in the world by market cap. It is releasing the earnings reports. And of course, hugely has grown through semiconductors. And here we can see the semiconductor index. And we are at peak levels right now. Last time we were at peak levels was in the dot-com bubble. And we had, of course, a burst. We had the dot-com bubble, markets crashed. Right now, if on Wednesday the earnings are below expectations, I will expect a larger correction for the S&P because the S&P is mainly driven by these AI semiconductor stocks. Okay, so tomorrow we have to really watch out. It's going to be an important video tomorrow. And looking here at Bitcoin, this is also an interesting chart I've just come across. So instead of looking at the 200 simple daily moving average, we look at the 300 weekly EMA. And this has, of course, it doesn't move as much. It's a much broader average price movement. So it has acted as previous bottom. So in November 2022, Bitcoin has bottomed 15% below the 300 weekly EMA. In March 2020, this is here, Bitcoin has bottomed 10% below the 300 weekly EMA. 2022, 15%. And if we bottom out below that, sometime later this year, I think October, of course, because Bitcoin always bottoms out approximately 365 days after the top. The top was in October of 2025. So 2026 October, we'll probably see the bottom of the bear market. We'll be somewhere around $52,000 to $55,000. And that's also where I think we're going to bottom out, somewhere between 48 to 55, in that range. It doesn't matter exactly. We'll try to buy somewhere along that range. And this is a nice chart to confirm that. Also, we know, of course, the Federal Reserve, they have not been reducing interest rates because inflation is very high, because of the war, because of oil prices going up. And we have now a 37% chance that on Polymarket, which has been proven to be quite accurate actually, that we will have a rate increase this year. And that will, of course, mean that markets will probably not boom unless Nvidia has good results. And here, finally, this is what can probably happen to Bitcoin, like a likely outlook on Bitcoin this year. What I think could happen, like we'll go down, we'll see a slight bounce from here, like I said, now go a bit higher and then further down. Or along the way, of course, we don't go straight, we have a bounce again, and then somewhere around this region, $50,000 region, we'll find some consolidation and then very quickly shoot to the top side. And of course, along the way, have multiple more stages. But this is where we want to be buying. This is most likely going to be in October. And don't worry, I will let you know when it's a good time to buy. Now, in my opinion, it's not a good time to buy, unless, of course, you invest long-term in Bitcoin. But even then, just wait a bit and buy at lower levels. And your future self will be thanking you. So, hope you guys enjoyed the insights. See you tomorrow. Bye.